Today, a verdict in the Bridgegate trial. Bridget Kelly and Bill Baroni, former allies of Governor Christie, were both found guilty on all charges, including conspiracy and fraud.
The decision brought Kelly to tears. We have team coverage beginning with CBS 2's Meg Baker, who was in the courtroom in Newark as the ruling came down. Meg?
Christine and Maurice, those two Christie appointees, Bridget Ann Kelly and Bill Baroni, were convicted of abusing their power. The defendants and their lawyers were frozen in shock as that guilty verdict was read, but they came out of that courthouse firing. Bill Baroni's lawyer going after the government's case, calling it a disgrace. You could almost see the smoke coming out of their ears. Bill Baroni's defense attorney, Michael Baldassari, was fuming, saying prosecutors should have had belief in their own case to charge powerful people, and they did not. He was referring to Governor Chris Christie.
I don't have anything specifically to say about the governor, but I will say this. In keeping with the disgrace that was this trial, one of the things that the U.S. Attorney's Office should be ashamed of is where it decided to draw the line on who to charge and who not to charge.
I'm not going to answer the question why I did or didn't pursue anybody in particular.
U.S. Attorney Paul Fishman says they only charged people they could by legal standards.
We indicted only the people who we believed we had evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, which, as you know, is the constitutional standard, evidence beyond a reasonable doubt to convict in this courthouse.
Baroni, the former deputy director at the Port Authority, appointed by Governor Christie, stuck with his story that he was duped by the government's primary witness, David Wildstein, and believed the lane closures to be for a traffic study. Baroni showed little emotion in the courtroom, but spoke afterwards.
I am innocent of these charges, and I am very, very looking forward to this appeal.
Feelings were hard to hide for Bridget Ann Kelly, Governor Christie's former deputy chief of staff.
We're disappointed. Our primary concern now is the family.
Kelly, a single mother of 4, first came into public spotlight with this email. Time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee. Critchley maintains that Kelly was a scapegoat, an outsider, set up to take the fall for Governor Christie and others in his inner circle.
The next step is to deal with the process of sentencing and then get ready for our appeal.
The indictment states that the shutdown of the lanes was orchestrated as political retribution against the Democratic mayor of Fort Lee, Mark Sokolich, who did not support Governor Christie for re-election in 2013. He responded to Today's News.
And to have found them not guilty would effectively encourage those that participate in this type of activity to keep doing it. That's not acceptable.
Sentencing is February 21st. Word is the defendants will get somewhat more prison time than Wildstein is expected to get with his plea deal, about 2.5 years plus a fine. The jury of 7 women and 5 men were presented with more than 7,000 pieces of evidence. They deliberated for 20-plus hours over the course of 5 days, yet still this trial leaves us with many questions. Both sides presented evidence that Governor Christie knew about these lane closures. I'll have another update for you live at 6 o'clock. For now, we're live at the federal courthouse in Newark. Meg Baker, CBS 2 News.
All right, Meg, thank you. And Governor Christie is among those reacting to today's verdict. CBS 2's Christine Sloan live in Fort Lee with that part of the story for us today. Christine?
3 of Governor Chris Christie's former allies now facing prison time for shutting down local access lanes to the George Washington Bridge. So the U.S. Attorney was asked, why not Chris Christie? His response, not enough physical evidence despite the testimony of their star witness, David Wildstein. But he also said the case remains open.
Bridget, is there anything you want to say to David Wildstein?
No. Bridget Ann Kelly, visibly shaken, leaving the federal courthouse in Newark after being found guilty. Her attorney pointing the finger at her former boss, Governor Chris Christie, without saying his name, claiming she's a scapegoat. But from the beginning, Christie's denied ordering the lane closures.
I had no knowledge or involvement in this issue.
Today, the governor releasing a statement minutes after the guilty verdict saying, quote, "Those people were terminated by me, and today the jury affirms that decision by also holding them responsible for their own conduct," adding, "I will set the record straight in the coming days regarding the lies that were told by the media and in the courtroom." David Wildstein, the government's key witness, testified Christie knew about the closures as they were happening, claiming he told him during this 9/11 ceremony. Now Kelly and Baroni convicted of conspiring with him. U.S. Attorney Paul Fishman.
The testimony of a witness in this courthouse against a person or about a person who was not represented in this courtroom is not actually admissible against that person in a subsequent proceeding.
But I asked him this question.
Would you consider a lower sentence if they were to come to you and say, "I will testify in another case"?
I'm not going to speculate about what we would or wouldn't do.
Another former assistant U.S. attorney predicts what could happen.
The real question is whether or not the U.S. Attorney's Office is going to go after the governor. Was there a deliberate interference in interstate commerce? Was there a personal or political gain? And if so, is it actionable under federal law?